up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop, let this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nigga owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop, let this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX.
J-Way.
I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless.
I'm gone.
Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck.
Give me that.
To the trends. See a lead, be the best.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of Corner to Copa. We're here with Foster and my co-host, Coach. What's going on, my boy?
Not much, man. We are now in September. I think August went by in a blink.
Yeah, it's been another good month for us so far. That month's over. August was a good month as a whole, but yeah, we had another good week. We won 4 of 6 on this homestand against the LA Angels and Boston Red Sox. Which started with some stormy weather and some rain the first couple of days. And then we had some nice weather over the weekend. And in the meantime, we made some home runs rain down. We got some timely home runs from Torkelson this week. It's either feast or famine with him. He's either striking out a ton or he's putting one in the stands. He gave us a helpful home run yesterday to get us over the edge. Riley Green had a 2-run home run as well, and Kerry Carpenter has really held it down in the middle of that lineup. He had a home run on Friday in a losing effort, but the only reason why we didn't sweep the Boston Red Sox because we had a pretty bad meltdown in extra innings, but Kerry Carpenter hit a 3-run home run on Friday. They were able to tie the ball game up, and then we gave up a few runs in the extra innings. I can't remember who gave up the runs. Do you remember who? Was it Foley that kind of fell apart on Friday?
Shelby Miller.
Oh, Miller. Okay. So yeah. We had a good outing. I mean, a good series overall with the Boston Red Sox. The pitchers continue to hold things down. You know, Casey Mize wasn't great. The return of Casey Mize, Kiter Montero wasn't great, but when it's all said and done, we were in every ball game. Our offense took a while to get going. You know, we didn't have a multitude of runs, but the offense took a while to get going on Friday to make that a ball game. But overall, we put ourselves in a position to still be in the race. We got some meaningful baseball into September. We got to see it in Comerica Park. We're now 68 and 67. We actually got to 2 games over 500 this week, but we're now 68 and 67. We're 8.5 games out of first place in our division and 5 back of the last wild card race. And anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Nope, actually, they're 70 and 68. Might be a typo on mine.
So we are 2 games up. Yeah, we're not quite updated all the way, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to take care of business yourself down the stretch for the last 24 games, but it's going to be this period of scoreboard watching almost every night because, you know, we talked a little bit offline. I was going through some numbers the other day, and you know that when it comes to tiebreakers, because we have that extra wild card team for the second year now, head-to-head tiebreaker is the first tiebreaker, and they will not have the season series against either Minnesota or Kansas City, despite 3 games left in Kansas City. We're, I think, 2-7 against them right now, something like that. So both teams we would finish a losing record against in the season. So whatever game behind we are of them in the wild card, you really need to add a game to it because we're going to have to finish ahead of them in order to secure that spot. If we end a tie in especially the last wild card spot, if we end in a tie with one of the two, we're going to be the first one out. So it's going to be scoreboard watching. Every game matters still. Can't really take any for granted, and with kind of this, extended rest schedule that Scooble's getting, you were kind of trying to figure out what games he will end up pitching. Ideally, we would like it against some of the better matchups, a little more challenging matchups, just because it gives us a leg up to stay in the fight in a game like that versus Colorado, Chicago, and Oakland down the stretch.
Yes, and in breaking down our week, we definitely got to talk about Zach McKinstry, who is currently on an 11-game hitting streak right now. He's defied all odds, and yeah, I feel like I don't think at this point there's nothing he can do to have not solidified a spot on the roster for next year. I mean, is that a stretch?
No, I think you're right on. And unfortunately, his streak came to an end just the other day, but he was named today the Tigers Player of the Month with those numbers briefly. In August for the month in its entirety, his slash line was 368, 411 OBP with a 544 slug and a 955 OPS. During his 11-game hit streak, he had hit safely in 18 of 22 games during the month as well. But during the 11 games hit streak alone, he was the 17th through the 31st, which is ironically when Torkelson came up too. He had 16 hits, 3 doubles, 1 home run, 7 runs, 5 ribbies, 2 walks, only 5 strikeouts, and he was a clean 5 for 5 swiping the bags. He made some nice plays in the field, nothing terribly Gold Glove, but he's not a liability out there, which, we've had some issues over the course of the whole year with some defensive inefficiencies, but they've kind of slowly been cleaning that up over the last maybe 2 months or so, especially over the last 30 days. And I got to tell you, this is what's more impressive about it. 3 of those games where he got hits, he was a pinch hitter. So you get one at bat to continue that streak, and he cashed in every time in a pinch hitting role. And he raised his batting average 40 points over that swing from 188 to 228, which goes to show, a guy like that caliber, and we know he's a local guy at Michigan. Hard to say that college name, but he's been just as pivotal as some of these other guys in keeping this momentum going into September. And like you said, to your point, I think he's going to be a very affordable utility guy next year because really him and Veerling have been, they've played almost every position except for catcher this year between the two of them. So hats off, despite what happens the rest of the year, those 2 guys have been absolute workhorses for us. So, but good to see from McKinstry.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on the fact that it's kind of been his fortune has gone up since the emergence of Torkelson coming back into the lineup. That's a guy that we've kind of gone to war about as of recently. Actually, we weren't I think we were kind of low on Torkelson the last show when our guest was talking, not our guest, but one of the commenters had said something about hopefully he can be a 30 home run guy in the middle of the lineup. And we were kind of like, won't be Torkelson. But he has been a little better in clutch situations. And, he's presented us with some power. So did you want to break down the numbers that you had for Torkelson as of now? They're not as bad as I thought they would have looked. Obviously, everything in a vacuum. When strictly talking about numbers, what do they look like?
Yeah, so right in queue with the start of McKinstry's hit streak back in the middle of August, the 17th, up until pretty much just the other day. He's batting 309, 4 home runs, 9 runs, 10 ribbies, 20 strike. I mean, he's still struggling with the strikeouts. I think we know that. Yes. It's kind of been, I feel like it's been a 1-game series where he might get 3 hits with a home run, another extra base hit, 2 or 3 RBIs and a run scored. Then he'll go 1 for 5 his next 2 games with 4 strikeouts, a single and a run scored, something like that. So that's kind of the pattern. I don't want to say it's a pattern, but that's definitely what the feel is right now. It's just getting him on that big day to produce in a game where, run production is a premium, and him driving in those 2 or 3 runs can kickstart either a comeback or take the lead late, which he's done, I think, at least once, twice for sure, since his call up. But, he's got 3 doubles, a triple. His average has gone up 14 points from 208 to 222, which in the scope of things, doesn't seem like that great because he obviously played a lot beginning of the year, whereas McKinstry really didn't too much. So there's a little bit of a skewedness in terms of how high someone's batting average is going up because he does have significant more plate appearances. Because he's pretty much played every day. McKinstry, might start 1 or 2 games in the series and he'll pinch it another. But yeah. The other flip side of that, we mentioned 7 out of those 15 games that he's played, he's had multi-strikeout games as well. So it's feast or famine. But he's had really good numbers. His slash line is in entirety 309, 368, 577 slug with a 945 OPS. So, I mean, fairly similar to McKinstry, but obviously much better power numbers. You trade that with the K's, and they've kind of been not really, I don't want to say feeding off each other, but they've definitely helped the top half and the bottom half of the lineup kind of keep moving it through, next man up when they're at the dish.
Yeah, and they've got to trade it off, like where Torque is going to give you the power. McKinstry's going to make it up with his base running. He's not only 5 of 5 in the last month, but he's also like whatever he is, he's 100%. So I don't know if it's 15 or where he's at on the year as far as stolen bases, but he has not been caught. Knock on wood, he has not been caught stealing yet. And I know he's on one of the games this week. He had to. It was a diving. I head first slide at home plate to score a run. So he's putting it all on the line. And if you're truly a Tigers fan, if you're not cheering for McKinstry right now, I've got to feel like you're not a Tigers fan, honestly, because let's be real too.
We all thought get rid of him 2 months ago. What is he doing here? But we noted, and you called it out. I think you were the first one. He plays everywhere. It's everywhere. With the injuries they had and the trade deadline, it's like you kind of need him just to have the depth because you're going to end up cutting 1 or 2 of these guys. 1 or 2 might go out via the trade. And that's pretty much accurate in what's unfolded, since mid-July trade deadline and rolling into September now.
And we're going to get to our first break, and then we're going to get into the roster situation. All right, Coach, take it away.
All right. Injuries, transactions, there's a little bit of flurry over the last week or so, kind of alluded to with some of the DFAs that we've seen for, now this is the youngest team in baseball now in the Tigers. So wow. Going back to the 26th, Will Vest was placed on the paternity list originally. They optioned Brian Sammons down to Toledo, and they transferred Javi Baez from the 15-day IL to the 60-day IL. Originally went on with hip discomfort and return of that lower lumbar spine inflammation. They believe that it's tied, really associated to his hip problem. So he will have surgery here upcoming. So he is done for the year. Ty Madden, his contract was purchased and called up, and he will be pitching again here soon. I believe he is today, opening up in San Diego for his second appearance of the year. On the 29th, Will Vest was reinstated from the maternity list, and Mason Englert was optioned back down. On the 30th, they DFA'd Joey Wentz, and they activated Casey Mize from the 60-day IL and transferred Faedo from the 10-day to the 60-day IL. He is also done for the year. Kind of I think a little bit of a decent, moderate loss to that, long relief bullpen that they relied on for almost the entire year. So hopefully he can come back next year. I think he was very serviceable very respectable, like 3.6, 3.7 ERA. He was good in most of his outings. Definitely a guy I look forward to next year. But then on the first, when we knew there'd be the call-ups, which for those that are not familiar, used to be you could call up significantly more players up until about 2 years ago. But now it only goes from 26 to 28 man. So they called up return Justin Hunter Malloy. And the only other player on the 40 man that hadn't been called up was Ricky Vanasco, who they got in a separate trade with the Dodgers for cash. It was a reciprocal trade after Jack Flaherty going the other way. It was tied to their roster situation. So he is now up with the club. Originally, the Texas got him 6 years ago in their organization. Dodgers traded for him for Luis Valdez last year, and then they DFA'd him and sent him out right to AAA. Now he's here. Briefly, his numbers in Toledo: 1-0, 1.38 ERA. Opponents batting $156. Only 13 innings, but only 2 earned runs with 15 strikeouts and 7 walks. So we're hopefully looking to see he can produce a little bit for us, eat some innings, and keep this train moving on. But as far as transactions and injuries, let's knock on wood that the latter part we're done with for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to parlay right into the down on the farm, obviously a lot of our guys that have been in the minor leagues are up now. Ty Mann, like you said, his contract has been purchased by the Tigers, and Casey Mize is back with the big league club. They actually both pitched this week. Ty Madden, he was solid this week, right? He wasn't. Yes, definitely serviceable. Casey Mize got hit around a little bit, but I mean, I think ultimately neither guy put us in a position where an insurmountable deficit. I'll say that. So it's just good to see those guys come back up. Ty Madden is Rule 5 eligible this year, going into next year. So it's going to be essential that he shows what he can do, so that he, so we can hold on to him at the major league level. And we'll just have to decide from there where we can slot him at. But as far as guys, things other than that, Justin Henry Malloy, who's now back with the team post September, he hit a home run on Monday. So that was some good momentum for him going into the rest of the year. Eddie's Leonard has been on a bit of a tear as of lately. He's dealt with some injury, no pun intended. He's dealt with some injuries throughout the year, and hasn't really seemed like he's gotten back to his regular form after having a pretty strong last year in spring. But he seems to be on a nice little streak. He hit a home run on Thursday, and Andy Navigato hit a home run on Saturday. It looks like he's probably not going to get a look this year unless, for some, unforeseen reason, he's, it's not likely that he'll get an opportunity unless something else changes. But he's had a pretty good year. And also Ryan Velotti. Ryan Velotti played second base on whatever day that was. He played second base. He hit a home run. He's had a pretty solid year. We've seen him a little bit at the major league level this year in spotty opportunities, but I didn't even know he could play second base. But I guess now that with moving around and them winding down the year in Toledo, he got an opportunity to play second and hit a home run in that game. So we'll see what the future holds for him, but I don't think he's held in super high regard by the organization. He's kind of an older guy and kind of a fill in and injury opportunity type situation. So that's pretty much the gist of what's going down on the farm. Let's get to another break, and then we're gonna just see where things take us here. All right. So the Tigers have, you kind of touched on a little bit what we have left as far as the Tigers are concerned, and what our likelihood is for us making a run. But how are you feeling going into this West Coast trip, and just what we have left in front of us?
Yeah. So, and also briefly too, to just kind of tie off your point on the roster there. Leonard and Navigato are not on the 40-man roster.
Right.
So if they were to call or purchase one of their contracts, they would have to cut someone as it stands right now. So that's just something to keep in mind for those listening on the audio side, whatnot. They've exhausted all their 40-man right now, and those two guys are not on it. So if something happened, they would have to call up to buy one of those two guys to bring them up. They'd have to cut someone. But going out west, it's going to be a tough series. Right now, it does not look like we'll have Scooble, obviously. But in the same breath, their best pitcher, Dylan Cease, we will not see on our side as well. So they made some significant trades to absolutely shore up their bullpen. So a lot of people think right now that they might have one of the best playoff bullpens going forward post deadline. So runs will be a premium pretty much the first 5 or 6 innings, which is something this team had early on not done a great job at. I think we kind of were relying on some of those late inning, runs in the 6th, 7th, 8th, going in the 9th to get us back in and win some close games late. But not been the case so much lately. We haven't been scoring as much this last week, but we've scored more runs early to kind of pace ourselves and stay, pretty even keeled. But, they're going to have to win these series. I mean, 2 out of 3 will be fine, but you cannot really afford to drop games against bad teams like Oakland and Chicago and Colorado. And I was surprised. Colorado put up some runs on the Yankees. I mean, some runs. They saw Boston and New York not too long ago. So, they're playing with house money right now, those 3 teams. And, I'm not really going to get into it with Chicago because we pretty much have owned them. That needs to continue. But that's the series, the season finale. But,
Right.
yeah, they got to take these 3 in Oakland, and they pretty much need to take 2 out of 3 from San Diego. But, like we've said, these are all teams, San Diego and Baltimore, they all have a wild card lead as the number 1 wild card, and they're in contention for the division. Maybe it's not so much Padres, but, Orioles and Yankees are neck and neck. There are really only 2 divisions in all of baseball where the division lead looks maybe just far enough to where you can say they're a pretty good chance to secure that division title. But for the rest of the teams out there, us, Boston, Tampa, who's right behind us, even though they've been sellers this year, they're still somehow hanging around. And us, it's going to be a bloodbath. So it's every game, this is kind of like our playoff right now. This is playoff baseball for us right now going down the stretch.
Yeah, and when you look at this, take a look at the standing. Everybody outside of
Yeah, like the White Sox, A's, Rockies, Nationals. There's only like 5 or 6 teams that are for sure out.
Right. I mean, I'm just looking at, so the AL, when this is AL leaders, you got Cleveland and Houston. So that's the top 2. Is that the top 2 wild card guys, or?
Yeah, Cleveland, New York.
Okay, New York is okay.
Yeah, Cleveland, New York,
I got
and Houston are the division leaders. Yeah.
So when you look at the teams, above us right now, the Boston Red Sox, they're on a 2-game losing streak. Obviously, we just beat them 2 times. Kansas City's on a 5-game losing streak, and then the 2 leaders. Okay, so the Royals are on a 5-game losing streak, and they hold the last spot. So they're slowly kind of falling out of things, right? I mean, not falling out of things because they still hold the last spot. But Baltimore and Minnesota, they're both on 1-game winning streaks. They've been about playing 500 ball right now. Detroit is the hottest team, maybe in baseball. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. So, yeah, as far as the trajectory and just the trends and momentum right now, the Tigers are on fire right now. Yeah, like you said, if we can sweep, what did you say? Sweep in Oakland and take 2 or 3 in
Days.
San
Yeah.
Diego. Yeah, if we can make that happen, depending on, obviously, like you said, watching scoreboards and everything that happens ahead of us, we could really, really be putting ourselves in a favorable situation, especially because we play Baltimore 2 different times down the stretch. One time at home over the weekend, and then another time in Baltimore. Like that pretty much solidifies, where we stand at the end of the year, especially because Baltimore is oh, how is that possible?
Well,
Because
they
they're
have the number
70.
one wild card, but they could easily trade with the Yankees depending on how that division folds out. So those two teams, along with Cleveland and I don't want to say Minnesota, but maybe a couple weeks ago it looked like we were going to get 2 teams for sure, if not maybe even 3 from our own division, because the AL West is kind of bottomed out. The Rangers have had a World Series hangover, so it's Houston's to win. Seattle has fallen back. I mean, they're half game behind us on the wild card, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, you look right now too. This series we're kicking off with San Diego, Kansas City, and Cleveland are playing a 3-game set. I mean, sure, we would like a crack at the division. We're 8 games back. That's 3, but at the same time, if Kansas City were to sweep that, we don't make any ground up on them. They may jump Minnesota to hold the number 2 wild card, but at this point, it's like, you know what? Just Cleveland, do your thing, win 63% of your games down the stretch. Don't let the Royals breathe, and then let it happen to where then the only other team that we kind of have to scoreboard watch along with Kansas City is Boston. So as long as we take care of business here, but you just never know. It's going to be a day-to-day thing. And at the end of the day, they're going to need to win damn near every series possible. And we talked briefly before we kicked off the show offline. They play 9 games in 9 days, 3 against Baltimore, 3 against Kansas City, and then 3 in Camden Yards again against Baltimore. So that is going to be a very tough stretch, but up first is the Padres.
Yeah, what's going on, Troy? You got some comments from him. He says, "What's up, fellas? We got a big series coming up. Absolutely, every series is big down the stretch." And then he says, "I'm loving the way our young guys are fighting." Absolutely, like you said, we have we have the youngest roster in baseball. Is that true?
Yeah, after all the trade deadline and the call-ups and the DFAs, we got rid of almost all of our veteran guys. The only one that we didn't get that was of, adequate age is Maeda. So, Gio, Canna, Flaherty, these guys were all 28, 29 plus years old. And we just pretty much called up most of our AAA team over the last 2 months. So I almost feel like down on the farm is now, Bear on the farm, or, it's just a lot of, like you said, Vladdy playing second base. I'm sure there's depth issues down there that with all these call-ups, guys are getting chances to play different positions and kind of try some stuff out down there. But yeah, I mean, one other note too, Colt Keith has been struggling big time over the last 10 days, 2 weeks, but who's picked up on and off between the two of them, who we mentioned earlier, Torkelson and McKinstry. So where one guy has fallen back, another one has stepped forward to kind of help offset that drop. So it's been nice to see. And, we're 2 games over 500 right now. So who knows what's in the cards right now.
Right. And speaking of Maeda, he's if it was NFL something day where they all wore football jerseys, or
I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see that? And Ken Maeda had a Puka Nakul one with the helmet on. They were, I'm not gonna lie, they were bombing on him in the comments because obviously the Lions are about to play the Rams. So actually, the fans in the comments didn't want to see any jerseys outside of the Lions. Riley Green supported Jared Goff and wearing a Goff jersey, and a couple of the other guys. Kreidler wore a Gibbs jersey. Who else?
Pretty much
Chase
the whole,
Young.
yeah, somewhere into the game yesterday, but everyone was wearing a jersey onto the plane afterwards. And I saw on X, Allen Robinson II, the new Lions signing, right?
Yeah.
Recently was tweeting at the team and whatnot, and he got an outpouring of response and love from Detroit fans in general, whether it's Tigers, Lions, or both. But yeah, they're having fun. They're loose right now. You know, usually that's a mark of a veteran team that's getting ready to transition from regular season to playoffs, knowing that they're pretty much in. So
Right.
I'm not saying they're getting cocky or anything like that, but they're certainly having fun, enjoying the moment. So
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of young guys on this team. Like you said, we got a lot. We called up. I mean, Jace Young, Trey Sweeney. I mean, a lot of we could have very well folded later, late in the year, and just succumb to a lot of the, I don't know if it's pressure. I mean, of course, there's pressure no matter what, but there was a chance that even with the amount of opener days that we've had, that there would have been every excuse in the book to say, hey, we tried our hardest, but we just don't have a complete enough squad right now. But I think that the way they're playing right now is going to pay major dividends in the future, not to look past this year because we still have games to play for this year, but it's going to pay dividends in the future for a lot of these guys that are going to be around, such as Riley Green and Matt Vierling. And I mean, it's tough to say, it's tough to say. I mean, Jace Young, he's already, he could very well be the third baseman of the future as of right now, if other things don't change. And Torkelson has played to the point to where you have to make strong consideration into him continuing moving forward. But it's just great to see, and it's exciting to watch how the rest of the year plays out, one way or another. Because we talked about this about a month ago, but it was still like, ride it out, see what happens. But here we are, still playing meaningful baseball, winning series against teams that we needed to win against. I mean, Seattle, like you said, is just one game behind us because they kind of went on a roll, but sweeping them was a big deal at the time, and it's the reason why we're ahead of them right now. So, and then we have Tampa Bay. Do we have Tampa Bay down the stretch as well?
Yeah, it's the last home. I think it's the second to last series right before Chicago.
Right. So,
hopefully by then they're eliminated and they won't be having to play spoiler. Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into the final break, and then we're going to talk about our beloved ace. So, Mr. Scoogle, do you think that there's obviously they have him on a pitching restriction right now due to the fact this is his first year that he's gone over 200 innings pitched. I believe he picked up another win this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, last game he went 8 innings strong. Probably one of his best performances of the year for sure.
Right, and that was the first time he had ever gone over 7 innings, I believe, and had a justifiable, could have went for a complete game. But, and that just kind of pats the stats and the resume to Cy Young year and all that. But do you see a situation where, let's say the games play out the way we said, with a sweep or, God forbid, 2 sweeps coming back home? Do you see AJ altering things? And then keep in mind, we now have a little bit more pitching depth. We have Casey Mize. We have, we got Reese Olson on the way. Can't forget to talk about the fact that Reese Olson and Wenzel Perez had batting practice against each other this week as well. So they are ramping up to try to make a return as well. But who else do we have besides Casey Mize that's came back? And then Ty Madden, not that he. But he's
more
another
so. We
guy.
had guys coming off the paternity list short term, really. some of the other
Well, yeah.
pitchers, and then one we DFA'd. So,
right. But we purchased Ty Madden's contract. I'm assuming that he's going to be starting from here on out as
he's
well.
starting tonight or today, I should
Okay.
say. Yeah.
Right. So, do you see them altering any of his restrictions and putting and just obviously putting us in essentially Casey? Not only is Scooble going to get the job done pitching wise, but the bats are going to give him 10 runs, right? Like,
shoot, if they give him as many runs he did the previous week in that homestand, including then he went to both games, and I went to one of the other ones. I mean, he had almost 30 runs in 2 game support. It was crazy. But this is obviously a much bigger. It's bigger, and it's also a little more complicated at the same time. If they have intention of not having him pitch beyond a certain amount of innings, then I really don't think this is AJ's call. I really feel this is a front office call because they're trying to slowly build him out to that 200 inning mark. So that way, heading into next year, if we make a legitimate push again and we improve and we're in a controlled wild card spot and or in a tight divisional race, that there will be no issue with him going, on normal day's rest. But in my approach with this, it's like, sure, maybe after that Yankee series a couple weeks ago, they were definitely, 3 or 4 games further out in the wild card. I really think they need to just let him go. But I'm obviously not releasing him, but I'm saying they need to let him go on normal day's rest, like he has been all year. It's, because starting pitchers, there's a routine with everything about going into your day starts the night before, and it's all mental. You look at a different sport, a long-time Hall of Famer that we had who did his same game day routine meticulously on the road, ate at the same restaurants, sat at the same tables with the same teammates, was, our Mr. Perfect Human, Nicholas Lidstrom. And, there's a documentary on him where they did a back-to-back in 48 hours, and they did the same thing. So for Scooble, I'm like, if I'm him, I'm thinking, man, I'm losing 2 starts because I'm only pitching every 6 days now instead of every 4 days. And these games matter. And I'm sorry, but he's not 22, 23 years old. This guy's 27. He'll be 28 a little bit later on. You need to let him go and earn you those extra wins that you're ultimately going to need going down the stretch here, because as we alluded to earlier, they don't own the head-to-head tiebreakers with the other 2 teams in their division that are ahead of them. So I would be remiss if they fall 2-3 games short of the wild card. And those 2 games he did not start because of the extra day's rest. I'm going to be stewing on that all winter because it robbed us of a chance, because that changes the dynamic heading into the final week. Obviously I don't expect them to pitch the first game in Chicago or the last game against Tampa and then turn around 2-3 days later and pitch 4 or 5 innings on short rest. I don't think that's anywhere near the equation, but if they're doing it with the intent of shutting him down at the end of the regular season, when he hits that number, that's it. Then let's say they do get in. They somehow they run the table, they outpace a couple of teams ahead of him, and they get in whichever spot it is. Is he done? Is he done? Is he out pitching in the wild card game now?
That's what I was gonna ask. It's like
I don't know.
Now, I guess if it happens organic, right? I was gonna say, I guess if it happens organically, they feel better with, okay, we got in despite the fact that he was on that extra rest. So now you feel comfortable with not ramping him up, but kind of ramping him up.
Yeah, but if he's hit his limit by the end of the regular season, do you go back on that and say
it's an imaginary ceiling though, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. But just to close on that particular thing, you've already projected his next couple starts coming up. So for those that, like myself, because I want to know too, that want to keep in mind the projected starts that he has moving forward, probably through the rest of the year. You've done it, or pretty close to
Yeah,
that.
it's an approximate because it's kind of changed. I figured based on some of the off days, because after the Yankee series, they were not counting the off days as a day where they wouldn't add to then him start, the next series. They were giving it to him as a full extra day and not moving everyone else up like a normal rotation would work in that aspect. So they've been keeping him out 5, almost 6 days every time. So it's been between 6, sometimes even 7 days. But as of right now, the next two they have confirmed are September 6th at Oakland. So he will not see San Diego, as we mentioned. Obviously, just pitched the other day over the weekend. And then he will pitch confirmed the 12th against Colorado. And then based on that timing of roughly 6 days, his last 2 starts, right now, he's only going to get 4 starts as of this timeline, would be the 18th at Kansas City and then the 26th, which I believe would be the matinee or the rubber match against the Rays leading into the Chicago White Sox season finale.
Okay. All right. So so you said the last 2 were which ones?
It would be the 18th at KC and
okay.
the 26th home to Tampa.
Okay, so yeah, the KC one could definitely be something major right there. And then Tampa, that'll be heading into Chicago, the last Chicago series at home. So yeah, that can make things real interesting. I'm getting butterflies just thinking about those games.
I'm going to throw this out here real quick because they confirmed it earlier today, but prior to that, I had the other projection. Before that change, it was going to be 1 day earlier originally, and I had him paced to face Baltimore in both series, which I think would have aligned a little bit better for us. Considering, again, Tampa might be eliminated or on the cusp of being eliminated with any combination of win-loss by them or another team ahead of them, including Detroit. So I would hate for him to waste a start against a team that's not playing for anything and is probably gonna be playing a bunch of young guys as they normally do. They're a low payroll market team, so they're gonna have a bunch of young guys up as they usually do. I would love to have had him against Baltimore twice because that offense is nasty. We know it. They've been national news for most of the year. That team is really good, and that's the kind of team that we would like to see him go up against. I mean, in a perfect world, hell yeah. Once against San Diego, once against Baltimore, maybe even twice against Baltimore, but I would take one against Kansas City in a trade just to help us out in that aspect because it's a much more direct approach, a team that we're, literally chasing above us in KC. So, but, that's kind of where we're at right now. And I feel like if he was on normal days rest in the rotation, he would see Baltimore once and Kansas City once down the stretch, in addition to either Tampa or Chicago. So, but what do I know? My name's not Scott Harris.
Yeah, and we'll just have to see. I mean, I don't know to what extent things would have to be altered in order to manipulate it to where he would be facing some of those, would be facing Baltimore in one of those games. But Troy says our pitching is built for the postseason. Absolutely, especially if we still had Jack Flaherty. But hey, that's near the
I literally just put that in chat.
Yeah, I see it now. Look at this guy in here, man, trying to steal my thunder.
Hey, I'll say this though: we nailed it at the trade deadline. We said if they end up trading him, and we still somehow find a way to be in the fight down the stretch, ultimately, yeah, hindsight would say we'd love to have kept him, but look at the other guys that we were able to get that they've been all right, but because Gio hadn't played too much down the stretch. Mark Hanna was kind of on and off with some injury too, so we were lucky to get something for him. But going forward though, with Sweeney and some of the other prospects we got from the Flaherty trade, we aside from some of the other injuries that we've been incurring over the last 2 months, I really don't think we could have imagined possibly a better spot to be in right now.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Trey Sweeney kind of ended up being a godsend. He's been very, very solid at shortstop. Obviously, Baez is out for the year right now. So the trade-off there is kind of, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But addition to that, Lorenzo has been a really bright spot at the West Michigan level. And the one trade, this has nothing to do with the Dodgers and the Flaherty situation, but even the catcher we got, who was kind of not somebody that we've even talked about really, but Hicks. I want to say Hicks, who was traded for either Kelly, what's his name? Carson Kelly.
Yeah.
He was traded for either Carson Kelly or Chafin, because Chafin went to Texas as well. Jordan Hicks, probably for Kelly because he was a catcher. Has been hitting 300 since he's been added to the Erie lineup as well. So he's quietly came in and been a nice bright spot as well. And we also haven't talked about the struggles that Dylan Dingler has been on.
I was just about to bring him up, so good job.
Yeah. So even though Lorenzo definitely has the higher ceiling, but he's at the West Michigan level. He's only like 21 years old. But when Dylan Dingler was super hot in Toledo, and he got off to a pretty nice start in Detroit, we were like, okay, we got our catcher one and catcher two for the foreseeable future, with us kind of, leaning away from Jake Rogers and into the Dylan Dingler. Now, defensively, he's been good, but or just calling games, and defensively, Dylan Dingler's been good, which is what he's known for. The bat just kind of woke up recently, but he's an automatic out right now, to be completely honest.
I gotta, no pun. Well, yeah, I guess pun intended. But also me as a former battery, I'm gonna stick my neck out for this guy. He was hot in Toledo because he was playing 5 out of 6 out of 7 games a week. Right. He's only playing. He's been lucky, because he's been cold over the last 2.5 weeks or so. Ever since his first week, where he had first game, first hit, and then a couple days later, he had his first home run over in I think in Wrigley against the Cubs. But this, you go from playing that much, you're that hot, you're feeling it, you're in rhythm, your momentum's carrying over day to day, to where you might see a game once a week. That's tough to adjust to. And then in addition, it's not just the change in playing time. He's now in the big leagues. He's not seeing some of these lifelong minor league guys at the AAA level that are going to go up and down for a bit of time. He's facing quality major league talent, but to your point about defensive, he has not let the bat or lack of more recently affect his defensive presence, because in the 6 games he started, I should say, they're 6-0 in the games he started. So not really had to contribute too much with the bat, but he's calling good games. And frankly, I like this 1-2 combo going into next year. And I believe Jake Rogers is still in arbitration eligibility, so he is under team control, which is wild considering how old he is. But if that's the case, then I got no problem with this being the 1-2 punch for next year. But with hopefully Dylan getting a little more playing time to help ease him in and get some more consistent rhythm in terms of game day play time, because obviously if you wake up and you pretty much know you're not going to play, your approach to the day going into the clubhouse and whatnot is a bit different than a guy who knows he's in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I know exactly how often. I mean, as a catcher, you're not going to play every day anyways, especially a night game, a day game after a night game type situation anyway. So, I mean, it's kind of to be expected that you're not going to necessarily play consistently at the next level, especially when you're flirting with, what is he at 150 his average right now? So, but yeah, it's not good, but yeah, it is encouraging that he's been calling good games. If he in fact is 6-0 in his last 6 times catching, I mean, that's huge. You're going to get even if you're batting 9th every game, you're going to get the ultimate confidence from your manager if they can pretty much say, hey, he's not going to hit, but we've got a high chance of winning the game. that's important. And that, he's getting his first taste of the major leagues. It's not going to be easy. It wasn't easy for Parker Meadows. I think Parker Meadows started out hot with a nice walk-off home run early in his career last year, but he went through his own set of growing pains to get to where he's at now, to where he is a staple at the top of that lineup, setting the table for the Riley Greens, the Carpenters, the Torques. He had to go through that to get to where he is now. So we're going to take one more break, and we're going to wrap things up. So I think we pretty much covered everything. We kind of talked about who we have coming up, what we need to do to put ourselves in a good situation to continue to be in the playoff race. Any parting words as we head into the week before we get to the next show?
I just hope we can get Reese Olson back before the end of the week. The sooner the better. Kind of every day matters. I mean, collectively the bullpen and in its entirety, including long relievers and your openers, have really done a much better than expected job in holding it down. After the injuries and trade deadline, which you would think, 9 times out of 10, a situation like that is a recipe to just implode. Guys start to become overworked. Guys become a little more predictable because they're pitching a bit more frequently. Might not be 2 or 3 innings every time, but they're pitching an inning and a third or inning and 2/3, every other or third day on a regular basis. So while they're not necessarily going back to back and then needing an off day to rest, I mean, there's been a mix and match of these guys all throughout. And I've seen some comments on social media about Shelby Miller needs to get cut and yada, yada. It's like, well, they kind of they still need these arms right now. So, but when Reese comes off, who knows, but cause it's most likely going to be a bullpen guy that either gets sent back down to make room on the 25 or, potentially Shelby could get cut, but he's got a $250K, I think, buyout or release payout instead of with the club option that they have next year that we talked about last week. But, it's tough to just say, okay, well, he sucks, cut him on to the next one. Well, we're pretty much almost at the end of the next one because there are no next ones without cutting additional players. So we're in a very not really fragile, but very finite line here as we walk down the rest of this month and in the wild card hunt. So, they've been great. And you lose Faedo now for the rest of the year, and I think that'll hurt a little bit. So, guys like Madden and anyone else that they've called up in the plethora of moves in the last 30 days, they're going to have to continue to step up and deliver. But I think ultimately, too, they've done a great job. This offense is going to have to need to pick it up a bit because after that Chicago series before the Angels, last 2 series, they didn't score too many runs beyond 5 runs. I think only twice in the 6 games, roughly, once in each LA and Boston. So, that magic number 5 is still the number they need to hit and to secure, a 70+% chance at a win rate, but when they hit that number. So that's still a key target. And you look at look at Kansas City down the stretch. They've got a lot of divisional games with Cleveland right now, Minnesota. They got to face the Yankees, us, and then they end the year against the Braves. So they've got their fair share of quality teams down the stretch too. So this is going to be, for me, I feel like this will be like the trade deadline. We're sitting there pins and needles almost most of these days, scoreboard and standing watching to see what kind of shakes out. But, I guess, buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a ride for sure. It's either going to be, I feel like it's going to go one of 2 ways. We're going to come down right to the wire within a few, whether we're in or out, or potentially, we could end up bottoming out altogether, but obviously not hoping for that. But that kind of feels like the two, options of a balance, if you will. So we'll have to see where it falls.
Yeah. And Troy says, I can't believe the Twins came back against the Jays. Damn. Says
Yeah,
Jays
I
blew
saw
that
that.
game. Okay.
They had a 3-run walk-off home run in the 9th inning to come back and win that game. But I'm looking at the Guardians too. They can't pitch. Their entire rotation stinks. Their bullpen's not that great, but they can hit. And the
Well,
other
you said
side of that,
you said the Guardians.
yeah, the Guardians, yeah.
Oh, they got that closer that they want to make a Cy Young candidate, but that's neither here nor there.
He's been electric. Look, hey, respect to the guys that are absolutely killing it this year, and he is Emmanuel Clase is putting up insane numbers as a closer right now. But I'm gonna fold that over with Scooble has a chance to win the first MLB Triple Crown since the first year the Cy Young Award went out to Cy Young, who did that. No one else has done it since its inception. I think in either 1901 or 1904 when that first became an award. There have been league Triple Crowns that have won it, but it's crazy. Not only Scooble could do it for the AL and the major leagues, but Chris Sale could end up doing the Triple Crown for the National League in the same year, which I don't know if that's been done in the last 20, 25 years. But, we got some special players doing some special things, but our guy Scooble is leading the way, and we're hoping he leads us somehow into a wild card spot.
Yep. So that would be also two lefties that do it. But just to kind of wrap things up, you talked about our offense needing to step up. Keep in mind that we also maybe getting Wenzel Perez back and having to make a roster spot for him as well. I think he's
in Toledo too on a rehab assignment officially.
Nice. Oh, wow. Okay. That's news to me. That game has already started, so he might be playing right now. But I think Ryan Kryler ends up being the guy that gets sent down in place of him because, I mean, between Vierling, Malloy, Carpenter, Green, none of those guys are moving.
Well, Kryler plays short right now with McKinstry. Those are only two guys, maybe young, but he's been playing more
Sweeney.
third.
Sweeney's a shortstop.
Yeah. No, then
so
yeah,
you got
McKinstry.
You got McKinstry and Sweeney that can play shortstop right now. Maybe even Ibanez in a pinch. I don't know. And then as far as Casey, right. And Casey, as far as making room for Reese Olson in the event that he comes back, you got Sean Gunther, you got Brennan Hannafy, who are guys that have played well. Brant Herter as well. He made his first start earlier this week. Those are guys that could possibly, or even Ricky Vanasco too. So I think there's some room. We got some guys that can go long relief in a pinch, but at the top you got guys like Holton, Foley. These are guys that, of course, would never get moved, but just guys that have been steadfast and solid. Will Vest, and then Shelby Miller. There's definitely some guys that you could stand to. Even Bo Brisky, and I hate to say that because that's my guy, but he's another guy that push come to shove, you make that
and
move.
He's been an opener too, which I think might be the coup de grace, if you will, that ends up making him the odd guy out for Reese, just because, well, he opens and obviously Reese is a starter, so that kind of makes sense.
And not only does he open, he tends to struggle in that. Like yesterday, he didn't even get out of the first inning. I mean, I think, granted, it was a early. He had a quick itchy trigger finger on that one to pull him because he didn't even record a hit because they went, both teams went no hit for like the first 4 innings, by the way. But yeah. Brisky had walked a couple people, but he hadn't given up a hit before they pulled him. So I don't know some of that system that they're going off of. I can't really knock it because it's worked so well and we've won so many games, but it's a little confusing. I'll just say that. So
I feel like he's had some issues after 1 inning in some of these openers where he gets into the next inning and he starts to give up runners early in the next inning, and that's when he gets yanked. So they probably were figuring like, well, okay, we got him for 1 inning without any damage. We'll just move on to the next guy in the rotation. And obviously heading into the Boston series over the weekend, they knew they had this off day coming up on Tuesday. So you could be a little more aggressive and putting maybe 1 or 2 more arms out there, knowing that you had that off day coming up. And obviously Scooble going 8 innings definitely helps that too, at the same breath.
Absolutely. But we're going to wrap it up on that one. We are just about at the hour mark. A great show, though. We actually had a decent amount of live viewers, so we appreciate that. Of course, Troy commented and participates every show. But please subscribe on YouTube to Bleachers to Speakers for all visual content. This is where you get the raw and uncut show before it gets chopped up with all the ads and all that good stuff. And then, of course, please subscribe to Corner to Copa on all audio aggregators. That's where you can find any roster updates or just anything. You know, obviously we're going to bring you all this content as we get down the stretch, and we're gonna play it. We're gonna ride this roller coaster out all the way to the 162nd game because the Tigers are still in it. They're still making some noise, and they got some meaningful games to play pretty much close to the end of the year. Troy said, all right, fellas, let's go Tigers. Hope they can go snag some wins in San Diego. Absolutely. But we're going to end it on that note. I'll catch you guys on the next show.
Peace out.